Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of Garbage Gobblers. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Garbage Gobblers. Yes, this is a metal trash can here. This is a prototype copy, so everything you see in front of you is all rules, components, and things like that subject to change. Thank you to Wildbox Games for sponsoring this video, and you can check out their Kickstarter link down below for everything that they have planned. But as you may have already noticed, this is a metal trash can box, and there's actually little magnets. They're also on here that you can probably put on other things if you are a magnet person. So I just wanted to show that off before we dive into Garbage Gobblers. Garbage Gobblers is going to be mainly a set collection game where you're trying to collect all different types of garbage before the end of the game because they're all going to score you a plethora of points. But to do so, you're going to have your scrappy little gobblers like your cats and your rats and your dogs, and they're going to be digging through trying to get this trash out of these different trash can piles. Now, the problem there is that everyone wants the trash because it's yummy, so you're going to have different people facing off with all of their gobblers trying to bet for these different trash cans when they're rated. Now, to show you exactly what I mean, as you can see here, we have 4 trash cans, and they all have a little +2. So they're all respective colors as well. We have blue, pink, green, and yellow, and you can tell from that little number up at the top. But at the beginning of the game, some of the trash is already set out face up. Now, there's going to be garbage added to these different trash piles, and some of them will be face up, and some of them will be face down. So throughout the game, players are going to be choosing between different actions that they're able to do, one action per turn, and one of them is going to eventually be betting for these different trash can piles, trying to gain all of the cards that are placed there, hopefully not too many bad ones, or they're able to manipulate those bad ones to then add it into their tableau for endgame scoring. Now, that may sound complicated, but the rules of this game are actually pretty simple. You only have a choice. You can do one action per turn, and there are 3 different actions that you're able to do. The complexity is going to come in when you are playing against all of the other players, because you're going to have a lot of knowledge of what they're able to play and how they're able to counter you, but you're hopefully going to be able to raid the different trash piles and gain the trash that you need to be able to score the best by the end of the game. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to start off with 5 gobblers in your hand, and those are the only ones that are secret. So when you take a gobbler action, which is going to be the animals that are acquiring this trash for you, when you spread them out, they're going to be seen by other players. So everyone's going to know what gobblers you're gaining to your hand, and these initial 5 are going to be the only ones that are secret for you. So, to go through the pace of play and the 3 actions that players have available to them, the first action is going to be placing garbage. So, a player is able to use an action to place out 2 pieces of garbage. And what they're able to do is look at them themselves and then place them face down in whatever piles they want, even doing 2 in one pile or spreading them out. Now, you might be trying to entice people to go for a certain pile, but you might also be trying to hide some rotten things in different places or to build something up pretty strong for yourself. So, for example, I'm going to go over how all these cards score in the future, but this fishbone here would require a cat gobbler to be able to eat it. So this would be one that you might put in an area where you know you're going to be playing your cat, because your cat is going to be able to grab this cat fishbone for you as well. So for the first action, we will just put these here. We'll put the cat here because that's not too crazy of a row, and this one, which is good, we'll put here, making people think perhaps it's a bad card that you put there. Now, the second action that you're able to do is grab some gobblers. So for the number of players in the game, let's say we have 3 players, you would draw 3 gobblers and put all of them face up so that all players can see them. Now, as I said, these are the animals that are going to be played during the raids, which is the 3rd action of the game, and that's how you're going to gain the items that are in a trash can. Now, looking here, you're going to notice 3 different things about these cards. You're going to have different colors, and they're going to relate to the different trash can piles. So you're going to be playing these gobblers when a trash can is rated, and if you happen to have the matching color played as the trash can, you'll gain +2 points. So speaking of points, you can see that these cards also have a point value. So there's a 12, a 4, and a 9, meaning that if this one was played to this row here, it would be a 14, whereas if it was played only to this row, it would just be a 12. So that's another thing about these cards. And a final thing is that we have a rat, a cat, and a dog. Now, they're going to have different abilities when raiding, but I'm going to go over that next because we're going to explain the whole raid action all at the same time. So just when this happens, when you take the Gobbler action, you'll reveal all of the 3, and then the first player will choose which one they want to take. So this top dog might be good, but because we know he placed that fishbone, we might choose to take the cat instead. Then the next player will choose which card they want. I'm sure they would probably take the dog. And then the last player will take this one. So that's how you know what players have, because you're going to be revealing the Gobblers before everyone takes them. So you will have to kind of remember, and you can start kind of keeping track of, oh my gosh, they took a 12, they have a dog, they have, you know, they've taken 2 pink cards in a row, things like that. But it's all going to be open information, but as the game goes on and builds, some of that is going to be lost and tricky, and you're going to just have to make the best decisions for yourself when raiding the different trash cans. Alright, so speaking of a raid, the third action that you're able to do is choose to raid a certain trash pile on your turn. So if it was your turn, you get 1 action, and your action could be to raid. And let's say, for example, I'm going to choose to raid this green trash can. So we're going to flip this over to show that this is the one currently being raided, and then players are going to have a chance to be able to play cards to win this trash can. Now, starting with us as the first player, you can see this is our hand here. We have 2 special cards, which I am going to go over soon, but I'm going to explain all of this first. But you can see that we do have 2 green cards in our hand. Now, something great about being the first player is that we could choose to play just 1 card for now and be able to play additional cards later. So let's choose to play our cat. Let's play our higher cat, the 9, and we'll choose to play that to begin the raid for this trash can. So now, passing play to this player over here, they would take a look at their Gobblers, and I'm going to have them choose to play 2 cards. So they're going to play 2 cards, and we're not going to know what they are, but then play is going to pass to the player over here. And this player, looking at their hand, is going to choose to pass, because something that is extremely important is that to be able to play multiple animals, they must be the same color. They do not have to be the same color as the trash can for the particular raid, but they have to be the same color as each other. So this player would not be able to play both of these cards, and they're just going to choose to pass and not enter in this particular raid. So now that it's back to our turn, we saw that this player played 2 cards, and we're going to choose to play our second green card, because as I said, we already played 1 green, they're the same color, and we're going to choose to play that. So now we're going to have this player decide to also pass, and we'll see what happens with the raid. So flipping our cards over, we have a 9, a 6, but we also have +2. So flipping these over, this player actually has the same total as us. We both have 15 points, but because we played to the green trash can, we get that +2 advantage, and we would win the raid. Now, we actually would win the raid in the case of a tie if it was an exact tie, because we initiated the raid, but if that were the case, if it was an exact tie, this player would actually not lose any cards, because what is going to happen now, because they completely lost, is they would choose to lose one of these cards. We would have them lose the lower one, and then this higher one would go back to their hand. So you don't completely lose everything when you are playing into the different raids. However, choosing to enter and then losing a raid will cost you a card. So then this player would reveal this to show this to everyone, so that everyone would know you're also gaining a tasty apple. And then you would be able to play all 3 of these cards into your tableau. So now I'm going to go over the different card abilities, just so that you understand a bit more of the complexity of the game. So first off, I'm going to go through all of the garbage. You're going to have different garbage that is worth 1, 2, and 3 points, and that's going to be your apple, your pizza, and your beef. And you're either going to have tasty ones, which are green, or rotten ones, which are red. And when you are winning a certain row, if you are not able to change what that red card is, it would be put face down inside of your trash pile as negative points at the end of the game. Whereas your green cards are placed face up in your tableau, and they are going to score you positive points at the end of the game. So right now, looking at these cards here, we would have 3 points from this. We would have 1 point from our beer, which I'll get to in a moment, and 1 point from our tasty apple. However, these also score additional points for set collection for each particular type of that thing. So, for example, if you have at least 3 tasty apples, you would begin the set collection bonuses and get 5 additional points. So you do need at least 3, but for example, if you had 7 apples, you would score an additional 20 points on top of the 7 points that the apples would provide. So there are rats that are in the game, and the rats are what allow you to turn something rotten into something tasty. So if you were to win a row with a rat in that particular raid, you would be able to take your rotten apple and place it into your tableau as a positive point instead, and it would count as a positive tasty apple in your set collection for you. Now, what cats do is cats allow you to just leave the rotten thing behind. So if you win a column with something rotten and you win with cats, you can decide to just leave them there in the pile for future people to hopefully collect as negative points. Now, there are also dogs, and if you were to win with a dog, the dog has to leave a green card behind, something tasty, so they kind of forget something because they're a little distracted, and that is because they are worth 10 through 12. As you can see, the rats are the weakest, the cats are mid-range, and the dogs are the highest cards for you to be winning the different raids, so it kind of balances that aspect out. So as I said, you can get 1, 2, and 3 points, but for the beer, you actually score for the root of it. So if I had 3 beer, I would score 9 points. If I had 4 beer, I would score 16 points, etc. So it can be really great for you to gain beer throughout the game. Now, as I showed you, there's also the different garbage that requires a certain animal. So in this example, if this row was won with these 2 cards, because it has a cat, I'm able to take the fishbone. However, if I won it with just a rat, I would be able to score both of these as positive because it could make that one positive for me, but this cat fishbone would actually go into my discard pile as negative points at the end of the game because I did not win it with a cat. So that can be something that's very sneaky to have face down and have people take as negative points if they decide to try to win a certain row without knowing exactly what's there. And finally, after a raid, you're going to place out more garbage. So once that is all done and the column is taken, whether some stuff is left behind from a dog or a cat or things like that, you're then going to fill more garbage into each of the different piles before play proceeds to the next player. Now, this may seem simple, you know, there's not that much going on where everyone is bidding these different numbers, but there's so much for you to manage between the different types of garbage that's going out, the ones that are going face down and how you might mitigate it if it's perhaps something rotten or something that needs a certain type of animal. And then you're also trying to collect your gobblers to be certain sets because you're only allowed to play them if they're all the same color. So you're working toward trying to gain those, but you're also seeing what everyone else is gaining as gobblers and they're seeing what you're taking. So it can be very, very tricky and a little balancing act of what you're willing to do and how hard you're willing to like push your luck with what you're trying to bid for the different trash cans to win. Because something that can also get very, very interesting is that at the end of the game is going to end when all of the garbage is placed out, garbage bags are going to be placed, and then only the raid action can be taken. So you can't gain more gobblers, but whoever has a lot of gobblers left over at the end of the game can perhaps take a lot of those columns. So you are trying to keep up with the pace of play of all of the different raids that are happening, but you're also trying to plan for the future raids because you might be hoping that your opponents are playing their higher cards now and you're holding on to what you need for later. Now, there are also those few special gobblers that I talked about, so I'm going to go over those now because they also really change the game. But it's also very cool that unless it started in your opening hand and you didn't play it pretty early, if you didn't hold on to it, then everyone's going to know what special gobblers are around and what they need to watch out for. So it's also going to add this bit of tension of, well, I want to raid that particular trash can, but I don't want to do it yet because it might get changed on me, and then hoping other players will take those actions first. So taking a look here at the pigeon, all of these cards you're able to play when playing cards during a raid. They're counted as additional cards that you play face up immediately and, you know, say what they are. But the pigeon is going to allow you to see all of the played cards. So anyone else's gobblers are going to be turned face up, and then any future gobblers played in that particular raid will also be played up except for yours. So this gives you a ton of control to know exactly what you're betting against and how much you might need. Or you might choose to fold and not continue in the raid because you know you can't beat what someone played. So that would be the pigeon. We also have the skunk. The skunk is going to allow you to move the raid over. So that's the one that I said can be very tricky and really change things on you, that it moves one over to the right. So if we were currently raiding this trash can instead, then you would be able to play the skunk and shift it over so that you are now raiding this one. And that can really change so many things. As you can see, like with the different yellow cards that are played, there can be negative cards, or that player may be better at playing into that color instead. So the skunk can be really, really tricky. Now there's also a raccoon, and the raccoon is very sneaky. So he's going to allow you to swap 2 different garbage cards from different trash cans. So you are able to swap ones that are face down, face up, you're able to move things around, and you're able to do this once a raid has already started. So you can use this to really mess with people, especially when you're trying to anticipate what they might be trying to do, because for example, the rats, they are able to change rotten cards, but you only can play so many. So if someone only has 2 cards in the raid and they don't have any gobblers left, you might put more red cards in there because they couldn't stop it anyway. And then we also have the bear. The bear is going to be my favorite one of all of them, that when you play the bear, everyone else has to discard a gobbler, I think because he ate them. So I'm not gonna say he did, but he makes everyone else discard a gobbler, which can be absolutely crazy, especially if the players only have one in play at the time. It could be one that is a pretty high card that they thought would win them the raid. So that's a way that you can really take advantage and change the game, especially toward the end of the game. Now, another way for players to get even more points are going to be these garbage trucks. So a garbage truck is going to be placed in a column when there are 8 pieces of garbage. So garbage is going to accumulate, but once you hit 8 pieces, you can't place any more. And the garbage truck is going to be placed at the bottom of that pile. Now, the player that does win that pile is also going to win that garbage truck, and it's going to be worth 5 points at the end of the game. So any piles that gain these garbage trucks, they may have a lot of negative points stacked in them. They may have raccoons coming in and putting more negative points in there on you, but it might still be worth it because you are going to have that mitigated with your garbage truck, and you'll still gain the set collection from all of the positive cards that you're able to gain. Now, another thing is the game is going to end when the garbage deck hits these garbage cards. Now, when that happens, the garbage cards will be placed out, and then players can only take the raid action. But each of those garbage cards are also going to be worth a wild resource for you at the end of the game to be able to help you with your scoring, perhaps making your beer a lot stronger. But another thing is that players are going to have these recipe cards that are worth 10 points at the end of the game. Now, you get these at the beginning of the game, and as you can see, they want you to have certain things. So this one is 1 bone, 3 apples, and 4 pizza. And if you had at least those in your set collection at the end of the game in your tableau, you would gain 10 points from that as well. Now, players do only have 1 of these at the beginning of the game, so at most you'd be able to gain 10 points, but that's a way for you to gain some additional points as well. Now, the general pace of play of this game is going to be a bit chaotic because you are trying to win these different raids, but you're trying to do it with specific animals because, honestly, the rats are really great for turning your rotten things into good things, but they're lower numbers, so it's so much harder to win with them unless you can have quite a few in your hand. But again, they all have to be the same color, so that's pretty hard to do. Now, cats are pretty good. They're able to be very helpful for you, but again, they're not very high in numbers, so maybe a cat with a rat is a very good idea, but having dogs can also be so helpful. But you're going to be spawning out these different gobblers, and you're going to know what other people are taking, so it's very, very tricky that if you see someone perhaps go for a raid and spend a lot of their gobblers, you might choose to also raid the next turn and take cards for yourself, because providing gobblers would give them more gobblers for their future turns. So there is a lot of decision space for how you choose to do this, because working toward that set collection is what's going to be best for you at the end of the game. So there may be some piles that look enticing because they have a lot of green cards, but if they're not toward your final recipe, and if they're not a part of your set collection, if you have a lot of apples and there's 2 pizzas out there, getting more apples might still just be a best idea for you. So there's a lot of decision space in this game, and I think it also is paced really well, that there's a decent amount of garbage for you to work through, that a lot of players get a lot of cards out before the end of the game triggers. Alright, and now I have jumped us ahead to the end of the game so you can see how the tableau scoring might score for a certain player. So looking here, you can see all the different points that we have available, and starting over here we have 2 rat cheeses, so those are just 4 points apiece, and here you can see that we have 5 apples. Now 2 of them we were able to make positive points with our rats, so that would be 5 points from that, but for having a set of 5 we would get in a bonus of 10 points as well. Now we also have 2 tasty pizzas, meaning we would get 4 points from that, but unfortunately we would not get any of the bonus points. But for our tasty beef, we would get a total of 9 points, and because we have at least 3, we would get 5 points from that. Now, as I said, the beer is squared, so we were able to add our trash bag here as a wild as an additional beer, meaning that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beer, scoring us a total of 25 points. Now, additionally, we were able to gain 1 garbage truck for 5 points there. And as you can see here from our recipe card, we needed at least 1 cheese, 2 tasty beef, and 5 apples, which we just managed to do, which would give us an additional 10 points. Now, finally, you have your trash pile here, which is your discard, and that's going to be cards that scored you negative points. Now, unfortunately here you can see there's a dog bone, and we must have won that raid, but not with a dog, meaning that it became negative points for us, plus these 2 for the rotten pizza, meaning our total score would be -6 as well. And with that, you can see just how versatile the scoring in this game can be. If you go for lower point things like the apples, maybe you're able to collect a whole bunch of them and then you'll get the bonus scoring from that, or things like the beer can just escalate like crazy, so that's something that you may want to not only grab beer, but grab as many trash bags at the end of the game as you can too for wilds. And there are also the garbage trucks that are just extra points that you're able to grab. Now, everyone is going to be working toward their recipes. That's 10 points, which is huge toward the end of the game, so also work towards those, but the biggest thing, the most important thing is going to be that trash. Try to take as little trash as possible. Try not to try to win any of these specials without the animal that needs it, because then it's going to be a whole lot of negative points for you at the end of the game. Now, I think that the pacing of this is really good, where a lot of trash comes out, you're able to go through the different gobblers, and the gobblers with the special abilities really change the game, that it adds this extra hint of suspense when you're going through the different raids, that it has you on edge of what you should or shouldn't do, and sometimes it has you feeling a little bit invincible if you're someone holding on to something at the end of the game as a little surprise for everybody else too. So this has been a preview of Garbage Gobblers. You can check out the Kickstarter link down below for everything that they have planned. I've been Professor Meg, and thank you all for watching the Board Game Co channel. I'll see you next time. Bye!